Anyway, welcome fellas, welcome back to Dust Customs, and today the long-awaited return of the Beetle Ute. Look, it's been sitting in the back burner for just yonks, this thing. It's been on my mind. It's like one of them ones that I really want to build, but I've just been kind of waiting. It's like one thing, you know, there's a couple of issues with it. But what I do have, I've finally got all the suspension components ready, and I can actually bolt this thing together and get it into a rolling chassis. So let's get this thing rolling. You know, today I've got some exciting stuff to show you guys, and look, we'll just tear it apart and put it back together. Welcome back. There it is, that's the pan for the Beetle Ute. Now if you remember, or you may not remember, this may be the first time you've ever seen this. I was originally going to set this thing up for air. I hadn't had an air car before, and I wanted this thing to get slammed. I wanted it to drag on the ground. I've since built an air ride car, and although I like it, I do like it, I like being able to pull up and, you know, just get on the ground. They don't handle the best, fellas. And this thing is, you know, it's planning on having some serious horsepower. So, first things first, I'm going to have to cut them brackets off. Now originally I'd put that beam across there to hold them brackets, but I like the feel of that thing. It's a stiffener. It's a good a good start to potentially where the tray will mount. Also, I'm feeling like I'm going to have a fuel cell mounted in this thing in the back, not the front. I'm going to go away from the front fuel cell, and I've got a feeling that is exactly where the fuel cell is going to sit, right behind the cab, under the tray, in front of that. So, you know, this thing's going to work out all right. Okay, well, let's start chopping. Well, that's that done. Remove those. The reason for that is because, fellas, we're going to be fitting this. This is the True Track rear suspension, and this is kind of, you know, without better words, race car stuff. So these are replace the swing arms. This replaces the spring. There is no torsion. The torsions are removed in this. They run on these. So these are the Fox rear coilovers, adjustable rear coilovers. We've got this whole bracing system that goes on. This is what replaces the spring plates. Basically, you know, they bolt to that. Other stuff bolts to other stuff. Not really sure how. Now look, the reason I ended up with this stuff, I was just perusing Facebook Marketplace and it just popped up. And a fella had bought it and sold his car and not used it. And I'd been thinking of ways to make this car better, and you know, we got chatting and I got a really good deal on it. So basically that's why I'm running this gear. I could normally never afford a kit like this. This is just out of my reach for my builds, but look, I'm trying to step up my game, fellas, and this is one way of doing it. So there's a few things we got to do. I didn't come with instructions as far as I know. That's the other one there, and I don't have instructions, but I did find some on the internet. First things first, I've got to remove these rear bump stops. So I've got to cut that through there and cut that all off there. There's a weld-on sway bar. This thing's going to get sway bars now. It's going to be a different kind of car than it was, you know, originally intended. You know, look, I love my V-dub stuff and I love my air-cooled stuff. As you probably know, my first car was a Subaru swap. I ordered an engine for this car. You know, it's something I don't really want to talk about too much because I don't like giving people a bad name. But I ordered an engine this car a year and a half ago, and the guy who is meant to be building this engine for me has just not come through. I paid a lot of money for this engine and it's something that's been causing me undue stress. However, you know, I try not to let these kind of things get to me. And I'm thinking what I might end up doing with this car is just putting a Subaru WRX engine in it. It's set up for it. Look, I've got a built trans for this thing. I'm just thinking, you know, 350, 400 horsepower, you know, as opposed to 200 horsepower, which this other engine was going to be, which is a, you know, high-powered VW engine. My modus operandum, what I want this car to be is, I want it to do burnouts. Burnouts. Okay, that's one thing. I want it to smoke the rear tyres, you know, like even my turbocharged, it has a hard time getting the rear wheels to spin. Smoke the tyres, one. I want it to handle. I want it to handle really well. And I want it to look cool. So basically I've got 3 parts to this car. And I'm thinking, you know, for $5 grand, the Subaru swap is a very, very cheap option. You know, I've seen them out there, 2018 model, so we're talking a 5-year-old Subaru engine for under $5,000. And, you know, we're talking 400 horsepower, fellas. Like, this thing is going to be massive. I've got all the room in the back. I've got all the room for this engine swap, and I'm just thinking I might just go ahead and do it. So anyway, first things first, let's get back to the suspension. Henceforth, this is why I wanted to do this kind of stuff. So let's start cutting this stuff off, see if we can make it all fit, and you know, take it from there. Well, I think that's what it's meant to look like. You can see on this one I actually had to remove a fair bit of material. And the idea is that they clear, but I'm just not 100% sure what angle they sit on. I don't think they just sit straight up and down like that. If they do, I'm going to have to take more out. But I think I'll fit one of these up, and you know, that's the only real way we're going to know. So let's have a look at that. We're missing a little bit of hardware to mount these. You know, the spring plate covers. Now they have these little doohickeys in them here, and this round circular plate that goes on there, and by turning that you can adjust the camber. I mean, these things are adjustable every single way. Like, there's a lot of adjustment in that. Anyway, so I've figured that bit out. So now that sucker there, trying to think, there's normally big washers that go on these. I've got to go and have a look for them. Give me a sec. So I found the big washers, but I'm just looking at them. With the washer on, there's not a lot of thread poking out the other side. I'm just thinking maybe that's just meant to seat on that metal there, that bush. Look, I'll put them in without the washers for now, and we'll just, you know, we can figure that out in the future. Okay, so that sucker, these things are usually a prick for me to find up. going to drive the thing. We're just trying to roughly put it together just so we can see if everything cycles properly. Like does everything clear? I don't want to have it all tight and then have to pull it all off again. I'm just going to grab the bolt that fixes that. Okay, so I'm guessing that gets a washer each side. There'll be 4 washers with it. So we'll assume that gets a washer each side. Get some big sockets. Now, in my mind, there should be a bush. Yes, there is bushes. I remember now. Okay. So I'm guessing the long one goes to the top, so we're going to go bush. No, we'll go washer, bush. I'll assume it goes that way so we can reach the valve at the back. And we'll go bush, washer. Through the hole. Loosely put a nut on there for now, just to kind of hold it. And at the bottom, it's going to be these short bolts, and I'm thinking we're going to go washer, bush. So when does this? So that cycles up. So I need more out of there. So, you know, that's why we kind of loosely fit everything first. Basically, I need to clearance this shock tower more, a fair bit more, because, I mean, you know, I could jam it in there now if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I just want to bring that down. Righto. I'll pull this apart, cut it off, put it back together. This might take a few times, fellas, so bear with me. All right, well that's looking better. God, look at this rear end. Talk about leveling up. This thing is just spectacular. So I've just got everything loosely bolted in. What I want to do now is I want to get the axle stubs fitted so I can put some hubs on it so I can mount my rear wheels and just, for the first time, get my proper wheels on this car. Let's get into it. All right, so here's where we're at. What we've got is the rear bearing assembly and housings and the axle stubs. Now, these are all just second-hand bearings. The reality is I'm going to buy new bearings for it. But I want to get it kind of roughly put together. I don't have the dust seals, they're all cactus, so I won't be using them. I'm just going to put it together fairly dry, like I've just cleaned a bit of grease out of them. Now these axle stubs, they are combi axle stubs, which are different than beetle axle stubs because they're bigger. They're like it seems like the actual shaft is the same, but the drive on them that goes to the actual axles and CVs is bigger. It's a much bigger CV. The reason I'm doing that is because I've got this sucker buried under here. I've been collecting these parts for this car for ages. Now that there is, it's a built trans. She's a heavy duty trans. It's a 3-rib, you know, like built for extreme torture. And it's got the bigger flanges as well. So I need to use combi shafts for this. So I'm not going to put the trans in it right yet. What I'm trying to do is get this thing rolling. The trans will be the next thing I need to mount because I've got to make sure all this stuff fits before I, you know, start painting and finishing and then realize it doesn't, like I just had then, you know, those shock towers. That would have been a nightmare if I had already had this thing, you know, semi-prepped. So this time we're going to try and do things properly. We're going to do it one step at a time. We're going to put it together, we're going to pull it apart, and, you know, then kind of finish it off. So I'll assemble these things and then we'll try and get them mounted in there and, you know, see if we can get I'm not even going to put the backing for the brakes on. I'm just going to put the face on, the hub, just to see if I can get a wheel mounted up. Well, I've got to say I'm pretty happy with that. We've got the rear end on this thing finally. Got these mint weld drag lights that I used to have on the Slam Baja. This ute has been going to be get those wheels for, you know, ever since. I actually thought originally that those wheels would go on this car. Look at that rear end. Man, this thing is looking dope. I'm really happy with that. So, you know, things change as we go along. Sometimes, you know, you get kind of halfway in and you might be missing a part, so you got to kind of go on with something else. What we've come to is the front beam there that I built, the 4-inch narrowed beam. I need the front bushes, the top bushes. The bottom I've managed to leave the roller bearings in, but the top I need those, you know, the big long bushes that go in there. Don't have them, I'm gonna have to order them. So what I'm gonna do is, look, we all knew that I've got the air-cooled beam coming. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I've got an air-cooled beam that I scored off a mate for my wife's car, the Black Velvet project, which is moving along slowly. But what we're gonna do is, it's sitting over here in the corner, you know, basically just as a pan, just waiting for something to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to yank the front beam off this thing, even though this is only a 2-inch narrow beam. You know, because we're going to be putting the air-cooled beam on this car. Eventually, you know, I'd say if I got the beam off it, and I might just rip the trans out and get this pan sandblasted again, just to get it good, you know. Last time I did it all with a wire brush and it just wasn't that great. So we'll probably sandblast this thing and get it mint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to yank that front beam off. We're going to bolt it straight on there, put the wheels on the front, sit the body back on and just go, woo, we got a roller. Let's see how it goes. Oh, sometimes the easiest way is the easiest way. So that's the beam off the Black Velvet project. It's already got the Ford stud pattern on it. I mean, this used to run these wheels at one stage. The only issue with it is it's about 2 inches too wide, but look, it's going to get us a feel of what we're dealing with. I'll just bolt her on and take you guys along for the ride. Just like that, front end installed. That's a beautiful thing about these cars. They're just, you know, people ask me why I like V-dubs so much, and honestly it's just because they're easy to work on. Like, you know, they're frustrating as hell, like any car, but at the end of the day, they're pretty simple fellas. And guys like me, you know, kind of simple, we need these kind of simple cars. So, and then we make them complex like this. Anyway, I'm going to try and throw the body back on. I'm just about cooked. It's been a big day. I've gone from just a floor pan to a roller. So I'm going to try and I humped it off this morning. I was feeling strong. Oof, back's hurting a bit now. I'm going to try and get it back on though. Well, I'm going to try this a bit of a different way because I just don't know if I can lift it again like that. It kind of hurt my neck this morning. So I'm going to just try and literally skull drag it on. Let's see if I can do that. I do have power lead under there, which is probably going to get... Oh, let's just try it again. Let's just try it this again. Running out of height. But where there's a will, there's a way, fellas. Let's just try something else. There's a serious rubber rake on this car. I'm talking, she's wedging. But obviously, it's got no motor in the back of the thing, so that's, you know. Yes, I'm liking it, I'm liking it. Bolt the guards back on. What do you reckon? Bolt the guards back on. They're probably not going to fit real well with these wheels. I'm going to be gaining an inch on that. So it'll let me, I mean, at least it'll give me an idea. Let's grab one. Thing is, they actually look good with them guards on, like lowered Beetles, lowered V-dubs when the wheels are just in like anything, you know, they don't look too great to me, but sometimes you just got to do that to actually get the thing to steer. You know, it's no fun if you've got a car that doesn't actually steer. There's two, that's probably what I need for this side. Well, there she finally is, rolled out of the corner and back into being a project. This thing's sat for too long, but I'm finally getting the components now to get it back together. Yeah, she's got a serious rake on her. Obviously, it's going to get some weight in the rear end, which is going to bring it down. I might just I'm going to load them tyres sitting over there in the rear, see if that does anything. Yeah, that definitely helped a bit. So you can imagine with a full engine, gearbox, and every tray and everything else, she's going to come down a fair bit. Front tyre size will come down to match. We're thinking that we're still going to have a bit of a rake on it. I'll sit a door in it just so we can get the final look for today. Well, there it is, fellas, the Beetle Ute. She's back on. She's happening. True track, coil over rear end, narrowed front beam, World Racing wheels, 3-inch roof chop, looking like we might end up with a 2-litre WRX engine in the back of it. Thanks for watching, fellas. Thanks again, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to share or like or, you know, comment. Let me know you're there. It's always nice to hear from you, fellas. I'm cooked and I'll catch you later.